Verse 369. By assuming Buddha forms, Sravaka-forms, Pratyekabuddha-appearances, and varieties of other forms, they declare mind only. There's a story that the Bodhisattva can appear in different forms to different people, depending on their situation. But to appreciate this verse, we need to get it in the context of previous verses, the previous few verses. And these verses, particularly from verse 364 onwards, and this was about observing the rise of all things, which means observing what we regard as the sensory world, the physical world of the senses, and also our mental, emotional world, the world of our moods. So perhaps if you're spiritually inclined, you're not interested in these worlds, so you look for a path, and you like this idea of nirvana, and you're looking for a path to nirvana, and there are plenty of them around. So from verse 364 onwards, as enlightenment practitioners, we're extricating ourselves from our habitual involvement in these worlds. But there's one other world we have to extricate ourselves from, and that's the world of spirituality, the world of paths. And this is what we've got here. We've got notions of Buddhas, as if enlightenment is something that exists out there. We've got the idea of the path that you have to traverse in order to get to nirvana. And this is the Sravaka form. And then you've got the path of purifying the mind, of higher states of consciousness. And this is the Pratyekabuddha form, the Pratyekabuddha-appearance. So we have to step back from all of this as well. There is no justification for giving reality to the world. There's no justification for giving reality to our own ego identity. So in a way, this verse is the combination of the previous few verses. Mind only is the awareness which is aware of the sensory world. It's aware of the moods, the imagination, and it's also that which indulges notions of a spiritual path. So instead of getting caught up in these things, get caught up in what is actually looking. And this is the awareness itself, it's the attention, looking around. Come back to this. Appreciate how this is actually greater than anything which can arise within it. This is mind only. This understanding is reinforced in the next verse, verse 370. For the sake of beings, the Buddhas show forms by means of no form. From the world of no form and of form down to the hells, where hell dwellers are. And all this originates from mind only. So again we've got this notion of the Bodhisattva appearing in all the different realms and helping beings in these realms in their suffering. but this doesn't really help us much on a practical level. So let's look at the first phrase. For the sake of beings, the Buddhas show forms by means of no form. I'm not sure that the translation is very clear here. Really what we need to take from this is that all forms are essentially no form. This is how we begin our spiritual practice. We begin with what is presented to us, which is form, and then we appreciate its true nature, which is no form. And when we do this, we're realizing mind only. It's not simply an intellectual exercise. We can only do this by coming back to this present awareness. And the second part of this verse, from the world of no form and of form down to the hells where hell dwellers are. Well, in Buddhism there are lots of different levels of existence, from the divine right down to varieties of hell. And that's what's being described here. No form here is used in a different sense to the sense that it's used in the first phrase. No form in the first phrase is referring to the realization of mind only. But in the second phrase, it's referring to categories of existence. No form refers to celestial beings, very advanced beings. But we can understand all these different levels of existence as all the circumstances in which we might find ourselves. They are all opportunities to practice. The hardest ones to actually practice in are the heavenly realms, because you don't see any need to practice, but you still need it. So the Bodhisattva knocks on the realms of these doors too. The point here is we're most likely to forget to practice when everything's going well, when we're in a good mood, when we're buzzing along. We might have a vague recollection that we were engaged in something spiritual, but let's just forget it for now. So this phrase here is really saying that we practice at any time. There's actually no excuse not to practice. Any excuse is a giving in. A giving in to form. So all of this originates from mind only. This is the realization. This is the realization we come back to. We take our cue from the world that's happening, the world in which we find ourselves. We take our cue from whatever mood we find ourselves in, and we realize mind only. And as I was saying, it's difficult when you're in a good mood. It's also very difficult when you believe that you're following a spiritual path. So again, take the opportunity to drop that